weirdest thing you've seen happen at a friend's house that they thought was normal? I was 13 when my friend Katie invited me to her birthday sleepover. I'd been to her house maybe twice before, always just for a few hours, so I was excited to finally spend the night. Her family seemed totally normal. Nice suburban house, mom made killer chocolate chip cookies, dad worked some office job downtown. The party was exactly what you'd expect. 6 girls, pizza, cake, terrible karaoke to Taylor Swift songs, until Katie's parents told us to keep it down. Around 11, we dragged our sleeping bags into the living room and started setting up our little camp. That's when Katie suddenly got up and said she needed to check on Barry first. I had no clue who Barry was. I figured maybe their dog or cat, though I hadn't seen any pets around. When I asked, Katie just shrugged and said he was her parents' special pet. Something about the way she said it felt off, but I didn't think much of it. Curiosity got the better of me, so I followed her down the hallway toward what I thought was a guest room. Katie knocked softly on the door and called out, "Good night, Barry," before turning to head back. But I heard something that made my blood run cold. A man's voice saying goodnight back. I grabbed Katie's arm and whispered, "What the hell was that?" She looked confused and said that was just Barry saying goodnight back, like it was the most natural thing in the world. I pushed past her and peered through the crack in the door. What I saw will haunt me forever. There was a grown man, probably in his 40s, sitting cross-legged on a thin mattress on the floor. The room had metal bars across the window and some kind of heavy-duty screen door on the inside, like a cage. There was a small fan in the corner, shelves lined with canned food, and a bucket in the corner that I didn't want to think about. The man looked up at me through the screen and waved. He had this vacant, childlike smile that made my skin crawl. Katie waved back cheerfully and said, "See you tomorrow, Barry," before closing the door with a deadbolt I hadn't noticed before. I was frozen. I whispered to Katie who the hell that was and why he was locked in a room. She rolled her eyes like I was being dramatic and explained that Barry was her uncle who lived with them. He had some kind of mental problems, so they kept him safe in there. She said it like she was talking about a pet hamster. When we got back to the living room, I couldn't focus on anything. The other girls were doing their nails and gossiping about boys, but all I could think about was that man in the cage. I waited until everyone was asleep, then snuck to the kitchen where Katie's parents were cleaning up. I whispered to Katie's mom that there was a man locked in the guest room. She smiled at me like I was adorable and said, "Oh, that's just Barry. He lives with us. He's not dangerous, sweetie." When I asked why he was locked up, her dad chimed in saying they had to keep him contained for his own safety. He could hurt himself if he wandered around. They explained that Barry was Katie's dad's brother who'd had some kind of breakdown years ago. Instead of putting him in a facility, they decided to care for him at home. They made it sound like they were saints, but something felt horribly wrong about the whole situation. The man hadn't spoken except to say goodnight. He just sat there staring. I barely slept that night. Every time I closed my eyes, I pictured that man sitting in his cage like an animal. The next morning, Katie's mom made us pancakes and acted like nothing had happened. When Katie asked if I wanted to say goodbye to Barry, I made up some excuse about my mom picking me up early. The second I got home, I told my parents everything. My mom's face went white as I described the metal bars and the deadbolt. My dad immediately called the police while my mom held me and asked if I was okay. I kept saying the family seemed so normal. How could they think that was okay? 2 hours later, 3 police cars showed up at Katie's house. I watched from my bedroom window as they brought Barry out. He looked confused and scared, squinting in the sunlight like he hadn't been outside in years. Katie's parents were arrested on the spot for unlawful imprisonment and neglect. Turns out Barry hadn't seen a doctor in over 3 years. He didn't even know what year it was when the officers asked him. The family had been telling neighbors he was visiting relatives whenever anyone asked about him. The worst part was learning he'd been functional enough to live independently before they decided to lock him away. Katie transferred schools the next week. Her parents made bail, but were facing serious charges. Barry was placed in an actual care facility where he belonged, with real doctors and social workers.